This is the Speak For Yourself podcast featuring the best of Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock. I'm your host, Jason McIntyre. NBA playoffs. Are we having fun yet? Take that for data. Cowherd brings us back to the days when he used to be a referee and says the better athletes do not foul as much in the wake of the David Fizdale postgame comments. Whitlock makes a harsh prediction that if the LA Clippers lose the series, Doc Rivers will never be an NBA head coach again. Fox Sports Radio host Doug Gottlieb breaks down the fact that LeBron and the Cavs don't respect the East because no one respects the East. Hall of Famer Chris Carter gives you a very personal account of the effect that an agent can have on a young person if they accept money before they turn pro. Plus, we talk about Roger Goodell. Should he suspend Eli Manning in the memorabilia scandal? And Chris Carter, in that discussion, reminds us what really took O.J. Simpson down. Ready for Speak For Yourself? Cowherd and Whitlock, take it away.
All right, welcome to the show. We'll tell you why LeBron James shouldn't be happy about last night's win.
And why Roger Goodell and Eli Manning might be headed for a real showdown. Speak For Yourself starts right now.
Goodell put himself in a bad spot. He's got to be tough on everybody now. All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by Hall of Famer Chris Carter and Fox Sports Radio host who thinks he's a Hall of Famer, Doug Gottlieb. Let's start in Cleveland, where my Pacers lost another close one to the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James last night. And just like after their Game 1 loss, Paul George has some choice words for his teammates, this time directed at Lance Stevenson and Miles Turner.
He's got to learn to control himself. He's got to learn to just be in the moment. You know, Lance is in our locker room is looked upon as a leader, one of our leaders. So his body language has to improve just for the team. We just need him to challenge Tristan. Keep him off the boards. He's got to know at this point we need him to take it to the next level, and we'll continue to work with him.
Colin, you surprised Paul George keeps going after his teammates?
No, I'm not at all. I think this is the classic. I'm ready to break up, and I start picking fights. He wants to be a Laker, and he's showing the Lakers. I'm a leader. I'm going to call out guys. He's showing Larry Bird. I'm going to go to you when we get swept here, and I'm going to say, Larry, you didn't get enough pieces. This is what you do when you want to break up in a relationship or with a company. You start complaining about stuff that's not that big. You start going public. You start picking fights. Paul George doesn't want to be here. Paul George is frustrated. The town's frustrated increasingly with Larry Bird. He wants to go big market. He's from California. He is sending messages out with trading deadline. Hey, man, I need more players. Game 1 loss. I need the shot. There. My guys aren't helping me. That's messaging.
Hold on. There's another guy in Indianapolis, big star, who you have asked repeatedly, be out more spoken about the situation in Indianapolis. And not all the time it has to be about exiting. It could be about wanting to win a championship.
It could be.
Which Paul George, before the All-Star break or right around the All-Star break, said, hey, I want this thing to improve. And then right after the All-Star break, he said, hey, look, I want to win a championship here in Indiana. I think Paul George is misguided here. I think the Pacers are playing actually well in this series. They've lost 2 tough road games. He should be going with positive motivation, not negative motivation. Cleveland struggles on the road. If they can win 2 in Indiana and maybe get lucky in one of these games in Cleveland, I think he's making a mistake. I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He wants to see the Pacers improve, more talent around him, more so than he just wants to get out of town.
Colin, what you're saying could, in fact, and probably is true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's trying to set some sort of narrative that allows him to get out of town. Right. I mean, the fact is that he didn't really call out Lance. He was asked about Lance. Lance's body language was terrible last night, okay? It just was. He was a -7. They were worse off when he was on the floor, and it became a winnable game only in the 4th quarter. I thought that showed great leadership. And, oh, yeah, when he's talking about Miles Turner, he's right. Miles Turner, even the highlight he went soft to the basket. LeBron blocked his shot. Right. He's getting pushed around the boards by Tristan Thompson, and he simply pointed out, look, he's young. We're still going to work with him. He's got to focus on keeping Tristan off the boards to help us win. I think that's leadership. That you guys both know this, and Jason, you talk about this often, that athletes have a kind of different sensibility. We have a different kind of layer of toughness, and we're so used to watching film and having it pointed out when we make a mistake that we're not as bothered by it. And what happens with media types is they're not used to being called out. People asked him about Miles Turner, and he said he's got to get tougher on the boards. They asked about Lance Stevenson, and he's like, dude, his body language, he's a leader. He's got to show his way to be a leader. He may want out of town, but I don't think that's why he answered the questions in honest fashion.
Right, I agree with you, Doug, that yes, he did do that, but that doesn't mean that he's ultimately trying to get the result that you're trying to get. Leadership is very, very tough. And Paul George has not been known as a great leader.
Thank you.
So what about him now trying to come in his own as a leader, now going against LeBron again? He has had no success against LeBron. So that frustration, but give me some help, not only as far as players, complain about Lance. Lance didn't have a great matchup. I mean, he was guarding Kevin Love. So Lance's body language is the same body language as 95% of the NBA players when I watch every night. So be careful in your leadership in commenting about your teammates, because how that's depicted, what you're saying and what they hear might be two different things. So you have to be real, real careful in being that leader.
So you're an Indy guy.
Yeah.
So
I'm a Pacer guy.
I'm more, I grew up on the West Coast. I hear I want out to L.A. You hear...
I hear he wants things to improve there because, listen, he may be interested in L.A., but because of the new collective bargaining agreement, he would have to take a little bit of a shave pay-wise. They can pay him more in Indiana than they can in L.A. Larry Bird, again, he hasn't been the greatest executive, but he's still highly respected in Indiana. And if Paul George really wants out, Larry Bird's not going to fight him. You don't have to make a mess to get out of Indiana. If you I follow Larry Bird's comments all year about Paul George. If Paul George doesn't want to be in Indiana, Larry Bird, okay.
And oh, yeah, by the way, when Larry Bird was a player, this was the type of leadership that he would show. Look, I think the video helps him because it shows that his tone, that his own body language was not off, okay? It was not incendiary comments. It was very, very matter of fact, especially in regards to Lance, when he backed it up by saying, look, in our locker room, he's supposed to be a leader. When you're a leader, you can't act that way.
And that's got to be a problem there. When you have Lance and you're looking for him for leadership, you know the roster's not structured.
Listen, I like the way Lance Stevenson played last night. I don't blame him for being frustrated when Nate McMillan says, yeah, you know what? We're going to put Lance Stevenson on Kevin Love. No one on it. And look, he can't. Paul George can't criticize the coach, but maybe that's where it should be directed.
But if you're guarding Kevin Love, that means Kevin Love should be checking you. That means you should have a huge night at the offensive end.
Guy played 26 minutes after Lance was effective.
All right, well, the Cavs narrowly escaped last night with a win after a late collapse let the Pacers back into a game that appeared to be over. Even still, LeBron seemed to feel pretty good about how the Cavs are playing.
We're right there of what we know we can become, and we'll figure it out. So, like I told you, I'd much rather have an 18-point lead than not have a lead at all. And we make plays down the stretch to win a ball game, and in the postseason, that's all you can ask for. But we're right there on turning the switch on what we really can become.
All right, Whitlock, should he be that optimistic?
Listen, I don't buy what he's selling, but that was great leadership. Not only a great hat, it was great leadership. It's playoff time. It's playoff time, and it's positive energy time. They're trying to win a playoff series, and LeBron is trying to will his team to a higher level of play and hit them with positive energy. You go negative at this time of the year when everybody's paying attention and Barkley and these guys are analyzing you every night on TV. That's how you create dissension in your locker room. Paul George looks up to LeBron James. LeBron James just gave you a lesson on playoff leadership. Positive energy works. Positive feedback, criticism works. He's lying to himself. They're not that close. They could have lost either one of these two games.
Well, I agree with that. I think, LeBron's a smart cat. I mean, there's a lot of guys that play in this league that may be basketball smart and then maybe not always personally smart. I think LeBron's both. And I think LeBron's always understood the temperature in the room. He whiffed on the decision. He was a younger player. He's learned a lot over time. I don't think you can fake passion. I agree with you. I think LeBron knows this roster was built for one team. They can offensively win the East. They can just win it offensively. I think what LeBron is saying is what you said. I think he's acting a little. I think there's a little bit of a commercial. We're this close. I need a little bit more. This roster is not constructed to be good defensively. Indiana's a poor offensive team. And they shot 49% in the first game. They're getting into the hundreds, almost the teens. I think there's a little acting going on here. And I think, for the record, I think if LeBron had acted a little better in the decision, half the world didn't hate him 7, 8 years ago.
Well, also, I think LeBron is also being honest with himself, because that going up an extra level, that extra tick, he's talking to himself, because he did not play well yesterday. But Kyrie, one-on-one, pick and roll, he was unstoppable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's amazing at the hoop. Now, I grew up with Isaiah Thomas. My brother Butch recruited him into Indiana. Isaiah does not finish at the hoop like Kyrie, especially with his left and his right hand.
Incredible.
Kevin Love is getting his legs back up under him. Not only just a three-point shooter, but also the ability to be able to play in the post. LeBron wasn't playing great. He's not shooting the ball great, all right? He's not taking many shots, turn the ball over an awful lot. So if you want to go up an extra notch, they shot the ball 53% in these first 2 games. They are a shooting team.
That's what they do.
That will get them to the championship. How much defense do they have to play with Golden State? Well, they match up well with Golden State. So LeBron's not far off in analyzing, Doug, where the team is if he's the one that goes up that extra notch.
Well, first, Kyrie Irving is the best finisher as a point guard in the NBA since Rod Strickland. Just the ability to make shots to which off the window with either hand, like that is an incredible gift that he has. And he showed why last year he elevated his game to where you're like, oh, well, that guy's a superstar. Like, look, if Kyrie was on his own team now, he would be putting up the type of numbers that we see Russell Westbrook putting up. That's just the difference here. And LeBron is kind of a Tiger Woods type of closer in these NBA series, right? He's undefeated, 18-0 when the team is up 2 games done. Much like when Tiger was, only lost 1 tournament when he led after 54 holes. Same type of thing. So great front runner. But I also think if you actually listen to what he said, he's right. They're not that far from flipping the switch. So he's not saying they flipped the switch and they're not that far from being where they want to be. He's saying we're not that far from flipping the switch, which is incredibly dangerous and incredibly arrogant to say, but maybe he knows something we don't. Maybe he knows that they're just waiting for the right moment to downshift.
Here's what we do know. They're not any good on the road. And it's great that they won a 1-point game and now a 5 or 6 point game against a not very good Indiana team. I'm going to believe it. Talk to me about flipping the switch. If you go on the road, game 3, get it done, then I'll start buying it.
But he did not say, Jason, that they flipped the switch.
No, they're just that they're close. I don't see them being close.
Did you hear your second favorite basketball analyst behind me, Charles Barkley, what he said? And I believe him. Cleveland does not respect the East.
I totally
And that's
agree.
where they are right now.
I think they're bored. Listen,
he stole that from
Think
me.
about this. With LeBron, Kyrie, and Love resting, so take rest into consideration, and take the fact they were defending champs, so you come in a little lethargic. Their margin of victory was still better than the Celtics. I mean, resting stars, defending champs. I mean, they took the second half off. I mean,
except when they went to Boston. And they didn't have Tristan, and they said, we're better than Boston. That's why they don't respect the East, because nobody respects the East. Nobody thinks that they can lose a series.
I remember, I'll go college basketball briefly, when the Florida Gators won back-to-back titles.
Yes.
The second year.
In February, they went through a stretch where they didn't play.
And then the tournament came on, click, and you're like, wow. And when you're great and defending champs, it's hard to get up in the morning and think, Milwaukee, we could be tested.
Recipe for disaster.
No,
I'm a gambler.
Yeah.
I'm a gambler. One of those craps. Oh, you don't respect the game? I bet y'all take your paycheck. That's what I'm telling you.
Blackjack is better than the Pacers, though.
No respect, no championship.
All right, welcome back. Chris Carter, Doug Gottlieb still here. Let's go to Doc Rivers and the Clippers, who are looking to rebound tonight from their Game 1 loss to the Jazz. Doc arrived in L.A. 4 years ago. High expectations after a title run in Boston. But his failure to lead the very talented Clippers past the second round has raised questions about his future with the team. And as a coach, Whitlock, is Doc's coaching career on the line in this series?
Yeah, I believe if they lose this series, he's never an NBA head coach again.
Whoa.
Yeah. If they lose this series, he's never a head coach again. I think the shine is off Doc as an NBA head coach. I think it's more style than substance. If you're giving him Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and you can't get past the Jazz.
They've had 5 straight years of 50-plus wins, league history.
Why would you?
No other team's never gotten to the conference finals.
Hold on. Wait, you're not going to coach again?
A head coach in the NBA.
Of course he's going to coach again. These guys have 10 different lives, unless he wants to just go into broadcasting.
Didn't you hear the rumor about him going to Orlando?
To be the general manager.
Who will eventually be the head coach. I mean, come on. Doc Rivers can, look, if they lose this series, what's going to happen is somebody's going to be placed ahead of Doc Rivers as the president of the basketball operations. He's not going to lose being the head coach.
Steve Ballmer, when he was at Microsoft, now Ballmer's super smart, but the knock on him was overly emotional and super impatient. I mean, Steve Ballmer could blow this puppy up.
He doesn't know anything about basketball, and the last thing he's going to do.
He knows enough to know that he paid a bunch of $2 billion, and he can't get out of the first round.
But you got all this. You got all this personnel is going to change. He's going to change, and we've all said Doc, the personnel guy, could eventually get Doc, the coach, fired.
Right.
But the personnel guy goes first. Okay. I mean, that's what happens in these things.
These billionaires, though. Dan Gilbert doesn't know anything about basketball, and he guaranteed we'd win a title before LeBron. These billionaires, they think they know everything.
Well, the big mistake here was shouldn't have brought in his son. Because, you coach your son, only 2 things can happen. You get divorced, you get fired. A lot of times, both ends up happening.
Sometimes that's a promotion, though, and I'll say no more.
Doc's future as a coach.
I think Doc has a future. I think Doc is overrated in the overall responsibility. I believe there's only a few humans alive that can manage the personnel and the coaching, being football or basketball. I just don't believe the human brain can manage not only the personalities, the finances, and everything that entails. So for me, I never thought Doc was a general manager. I don't know why Ballmer made that big leap, but I'm with you. I believe kill the guy who's shopping for the groceries. Let Doc stay as the coach, but does that affect signing Chris Paul and the rest of that roster?
Let me defend, though. The 2 coaches I always defend, one is your friend Marvin Lewis, and the other is Doc.
Marvin Lewis.
Yeah.
I always defend Marvin Lewis. I've been tough on Mike Tomlin.
Pac-Man gonna get him fired.
Because Tomlin inherited a Rolls Royce. Marvin Lewis inherited a team that wouldn't build an indoor stadium. Moeller High across the street had one.
Yes.
So I'll always defend Marvin Lewis. He has added stability to a mess. I'll say this about Doc Rivers. This franchise was the worst in North America for 25 years.
Correct.
Okay, they're not winning a playoff, but in his defense, the West, since he arrived in L.A., they've been pretty good.
Well, first of all, there's 2 parts to it, okay? People think the Clipper curse is they can't get out of the second round. That's not the Clipper curse. The Clipper curse was everybody they drafted stunk or got hurt and then ended up stinking. So, let's remember, every year Elgin Baylor.
Somebody help me remember. I thought David Stern gifted them Chris Paul. That wasn't some mastermind plan that Doc put together.
True.
I thought Mark Cuban really stole DeAndre Jordan from him, and then Doc had to go begging to get him back. And now when we look in retrospect, they would have been better off with addition by subtraction. DeAndre Jordan wasn't worth all those crocodile tears. So I just don't see the proof here. Doc bringing his son and rehabilitating his son's career, that's about the best thing on his resume with the Clippers.
Okay, or maybe after Chris Paul, it's a wildly overrated roster. Blake Griffin, a bad fourth-quarter player. DeAndre can't create a shot. Redick now wants a fortune.
For DeAndre Jordan to come back when Mark Cuban took him off your hands. I put that on Doc. Bringing his son into that organization, I put that on Doc.
That's fair.
But they lost Darren Collison, and that they couldn't control because they couldn't afford to keep Darren Collison. You're right. It wasn't right to bring in his son. Look, he hasn't been a good general manager. We wouldn't argue with that. But we can't take away the success and the sustained success they had with the Boston Celtics. Granted, Brad Stevens has been really, really good, but he hasn't achieved the level of success that Doc did when he was there. And he's seen as a guy who, like Chris said, is one of the few guys who can command the respect of a room with some of the elites of the NBA.
No, you know who he commands respect with? And damn it, I like Doc. Everybody likes Doc. But he commands respect with this group. The players sounds like lip service to me based off of what I'm seeing on the court. Everybody likes him, but I don't know if their performance speaks to, do they respect him? Do they believe in what he's preaching? Is his strategy as good as some of the other coaches around the league? Rick Carlisle, people like that, coach circles around Doc. He got 1 championship too. So I'm just telling you, they lose this first round, and to me, that would be a big red flag. He had great pieces here and are relatively good pieces. No organizations can promise him, oh, yeah, we're going to put a trio together and a group together as good as what you had in the Clippers. I just don't see any reason for him to, you know, if they lose this, Doc's toast. All right, welcome back. Same four guys. Let's move to college sports. On Monday, the state of North Carolina forced Terry Watson, a former NFL agent, to plead guilty to 13 felony counts for paying 3 UNC football players roughly $24,000. 40 states now have laws on the books criminalizing agents inducing college athletes to sign with them with cash and gifts. Translation, 40 states have laws on the book protecting the morally bankrupt concept of NCAA amateurism. The social justice warrior community, of course, is silent. NCAA amateurism is the private slush fund of progressive university presidents. How in the oh-so-woke year of 2017 is giving kids money criminal behavior? Colin, should agents be criminalized for bribing kids with money?
Well, yes. In the current situation we have, I've said this, I remember saying this when I got into this business 20 years ago. If you want to stop cheating, boosters, agents, it's a felony. Deterrence work. Ever been to a restaurant? You don't drink. I occasionally do. You have a glass of wine. You know why I don't have the second? Because I work for a big company and I don't want to get in trouble. If you made it a felony to give a running back a hundy, guys wouldn't be giving running backs a hundy. Your point is idealistic and it's holistic. Your world is in the big picture. That's a different argument for me.
No.
But in the construct we have now, if you want to stop cheating, punish even a booster for giving a kid money.
Amateurism is a scam. It's a joke. It was built for the elite to keep the working class out of sports. That's why amateurism was created, to keep poor people out of sports. If you were wealthy, you had the leisure time to participate in sports. Amateurism is morally bankrupt. And so laws in 2017 that support a bankrupt concept of amateurism is just wrong. This is worse than the drug war. We're criminalizing guys for participating in capitalism.
Well, if they didn't, then you'd have Ole Miss football running rampant where people could just pay running backs.
What they might do? They might blow up amateurism and start paying the kids.
That's a whole different, that's a 3-hour show.
Hold on a second. First of all, okay, you're proposing there to be no laws. That's what you're proposing.
I'm not. I'm proposing there be fair laws. And agents giving kids money is not criminal behavior.
It becomes indentured servitude. That's what ends up happening. When an agent pays you money, when an agent gives you a loan on a car, you owe that guy money.
You know what indentured servitude is? Playing football and basketball.
No, it's not.
While the coach makes $9 million.
Your argument is idealistic.
It's not idealistic.
If I'm in a state right now and I have 4 universities part of the NCAA, I have to deal with lobbyists, school presidents.
Oh, wait. We're getting a little bit.
They did it for years without this being criminalized.
Way out there.
Let's start with the amateurism, keeping the lower class and middle class. No, it actually helps kids that couldn't get into school that they would never get an opportunity to get into ever.
Doug,
The
reason amateurism was created, that's not up for debate. It was started a couple hundred years ago. That's not up for debate.
I'm not debating why it was created. I'm telling you the facts of how it operates now. Do you know how expensive it is to go to college?
Absolutely. Okay, do I know how much money they create?
Do you know how hard it is to get into college? Do you know how hard it is to afford college? To get into school
they're doing us a favor. They're doing guys like me a favor, letting me in.
100,000 people apply to UCLA. 100,000.
I don't care.
2,300 get in.
The music student can sign with an agent. It can make as much money as they want. The Olympic athletes can do whatever the hell they want. They can make money and play in the Olympics. But the football and basketball players, the people paying for all the other welfare sports to participate, no, we got a bunch of rules and regulations, and if someone gives you money, they're criminals and felons.
I have a question. If they opened it up and let agents pay the kids, and I got a unique perspective because it's changed my life, how do you think that would make it better?
I didn't say open it up and let everybody do it. That's not what I'm saying. You don't have to criminalize it. It doesn't have to. The state doesn't have to get involved and say, we're going to label somebody a felony.
As an 18-year-old, my mom gave me two choices. Son, you can either participate in sports and be good enough where you can earn an athletic scholarship, or you can decide to go fight for this country. Those are the two decisions you're going to have. And there's also an 18 and 30 rule. When you get 18 years old, you got 30 days to get out of my house. So the Ohio State presented me with the best opportunity that had been presented to me, an opportunity to go to college, play football and or basketball for their university. They were going to pay for all my books. When I signed my letter of intent at my house, I had cockroaches running across the paper. So I felt like that was the first business deal that I had ever signed. And I ended up getting into a business deal with an agent, which made me ineligible, lost my eligibility. Now, eventually, I ended up getting on track, but that would have ruined my life. And it would ruin sports. It would ruin more kids' lives than it would help. And there's a thing called the law, all right? And you can't break the law and us co-sign on people breaking the law.
These players are smart. A kid you knew at, what were you, 17, 18?
18, yes.
Chris knew, I'm getting an opportunity. I'm not going to be used. Chris used the opportunity. Ohio State was on Rose Bowls I watched.
Yes.
These guys sign, and they know. These Kentucky players, basketball players, I got a great coach, I got room, I got board, I got food, I got TV. This is a step to wealth. All these players aren't being used.
It's not just the wealth of playing athletics. We get caught in that, okay?
Yes.
There's 1% of guys go and play in the league, and the rest of them are
going with the conversation. I'm saying, and when Chris did it, it wasn't a criminal felony.
No. After I did, the criminal case my court case led to people being incarcerated and it being a felony.
Now they've added all these laws that, again, we can turn speeding tickets into felonies if we want to.
Yeah.
We can turn anything.
If you go fast enough, they're actually
any behavior that we want to label someone a felony or somebody, they get to decide. But to me, when it's just giving an agent entering into a deal.
First of all, I understand your point. I understand.
Athlete,
you make a good point as far as amateurism. Yes, there should be something done about that. But the business of slimy agents being able to pay the amount of money, that marriage right there will never work. There should be something.
Agents.
That's no different than payola in radio. That's no different than illicit business practices.
Look, there's people right now that's like, this is how we had all these marijuana laws and people doing 20 years for marijuana. Because, it's the law, and we got to stop it somehow, blah, blah, blah. You can over-criminalize some behavior.
Fair.
This is wrong, and it's over-criminalized.
Marijuana's been proven to help in a lot of different ways, too.
Agents have, too.
Oh.
No agent help. You got an agent right now, but they don't help. They're no good. They're all away.
He don't know how to read it. He don't know how to read Jordan, he don't know how to read a teleprompter.
Everybody can get agents but the athletes. I got it. Or the football and basketball players.
And you got a very good agent.
Thank you.
And
but only football and basketball is no. It's a criminal activity for you.
All right, welcome back. Chris Carter, Doug Gottlieb back here. Let's move to the National Football League, where Eli Manning is in some trouble after allegations surfaced last week that he knowingly provided false game-worn memorabilia to collectors. Now the New York Daily News speculates that Roger Goodell could suspend Eli for violating the league's personal conduct policy. As of now, there are no legal charges against Eli, and the league has not commented on the situation. All right, Whitlock, should Goodell suspend Eli over the sports memorabilia stuff?
I think no, he should not. I think that he will because of the politics of his situation. I think that NFL players feel like there's one set of rules for defensive players and black NFL players, and that's what got Tom Brady caught up in some BS. And now that Tom Brady's been caught up in some BS, Eli Manning needs to be caught up in some BS. And so they want the rules to apply to the highest, the pretty boy quarterbacks. And so I think Roger Goodell will have no choice but to overreact in this situation.
I think you may be right, but I'll just tell a personal story. Take 60 seconds. 4 or 5 years ago, somebody came to me and said, you want to buy a sports memorabilia company? At a reasonable price. I had to buy a little bit of money and then buy all the inventory. So I called one of the smarter guys I know in sports who had a connection to it. He said, 90% of the stuff's fake. He said, game use stuff is just fake. He says, you could get into legal situations, and I'm like, all right, I pass. When I hear this story, leagues have contracts with sports memorabilia places. Teams do. A player walks in, becomes a star, and you're just signing stuff. You don't even get an approval. It's like, here, we'll give you $1,000 for this helmet. If you read the story in that email from Eli, it's like it's the 38th most important thing on a Monday for Eli, and he's like, hey, can I get a couple of helmets? Because, you know, there is a contract with the league, with the Giants, and the player gets stuck in it. I'm going to defend players overwhelmingly in this situation where half the time you have to sign stuff, you don't want any part of it, and then on Monday after a game in a hot tub or a whirlpool, hey, we need your jersey.
He asked for fake stuff, though.
This is an ugly business, and it wasn't the double homicide that brought OJ down. It was the memorabilia. So, as being you know, a long-standing, especially being from Ohio State, also being a Hall of Famer, my autograph is worth a lot of money, and when I got into the Hall, it became substantially more. And the number of companies that have approached me and the amount of money that I make doing autographs, it's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. I never would have thought that it was like this, but I have good people who manage it. I typically sign only exclusive deals. I could see how easily someone could be caught in this, because once you're in the business, people will make demands on you, and if you acquiesce to those demands, they'll keep making more demands on you, especially the active players as far as game-worn stuff. Like, people just think, oh, my God, Doug, if I could buy your pants after you wore them on this show, like, that would increase the value. Like, it really does. So the game-worn stuff it's totally, that's a bad business. There's a lot of bad people, and there's a lot of truth to this. And I'm not surprised that they don't smoke out a lot of other athletes and people behind
Should Goodell quickly, should he suspend the guy?
No. No. Full disclosure, though, don't lie, because it won't help you.
Yeah, that's the part. As long as he doesn't lie. And right now, there's some plausible deniability. If you read the email or the text that he sent to his agent, hey, can you get two that look like they're game worn? That doesn't mean get ones that weren't game worn. I love that you point out that OJ is in jail for stealing his own stuff. That's just an amazing footnote to an incredible story. Part of it is there's just no public sympathy for autograph hounds and for this business.
That's right.
There just isn't. They're not a rights holder. It's the first family in football. Like, dude, you can't suspend a Manning. You can do it to a Brady because nobody likes the Patriots. You can't suspend a Manning. That's not going after God. Okay, that's Archie. That's going after one of the apostles. Okay, it's not happening. And especially because there's plausible.
No.
I think no. I think there's no way that they go after him.
I think
because of plausible deniability, had nothing to do with the sport, with the sanctity of the sport, and even if it was personal conduct policy, he's never had anything that could be illicit.
And by the way, quickly, if you did suspend him, like Chris said, you could have 1,000 cases open up tomorrow. Peter King in his Monday morning column said 90% of game-worn stuff, fake. It's everywhere.
The worst is the guy who buys the championship ring that somebody else earned, to me.
Yes.
Because not only are you celebrating a championship that you didn't win, but you're celebrating the fact that that guy had to sell it because he needed some money. I think that's the saddest person.
And I actually tried to Google Jason Whitlock, Ball State, game-worn jersey, and nothing came back.
There's only one.
Nothing came back.
There's only one. But listen, the reason why I think you may be wrong is because if nothing's done to Eli here, the next player that gets in trouble, when Eli did something, you look the other way.
Especially if it's an African American.
Yes, that's gonna happen. I think he's in a tough spot.
This is the Speak For Yourself podcast featuring the best of Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock. I'm your host, Jason McIntyre. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Check it out, leave a review. Also, thank you for the social media love. We always love that. Hey, big news just breaking that we didn't get in the show. Grayson Allen has notified Duke he's going to return to Durham for his senior season. That's huge for Grayson Allen. Listen, he kind of played his way out of the first round with the extracurricular activities. However, I do believe this is a smart move. Duke loses a lot of players. He can go back to being the alpha dog like he was 2 years ago. And in addition to that, the 2018 draft is much weaker than this one. So he's got a better chance of getting into the lottery or at least top 20. Good luck to Grayson Allen. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow.